You know that the single largest financial operation in the history of not Great Britain was to pay reparations to 45,000 slave owners. Not reparations to enslaved people, reparations to slave owners. The Brits have been paying this off until 2015.
I was brought up in, quote, Bedford-Stuyvesant in my time. But I would like to say what scares us is I think we hear violence.
Yes. The young lady said she's afraid of violence. And isn't it sad that we who have been the victims of so much violence, now whites fear violence from us? We do not have a history of killing white people. White people have a history of killing us. See? And what you fear, may I say this, sir? What you fear, and it's a deep guilt thing, that white folks suffer. You are afraid that if we ever come to power, we will do to you and your fathers what you and your people have done to us. And I think you are judging us by the state of your own mind, and that is not necessarily the mind of black people.
White people attempting to rebrand white rage by co-opting the term black fatigue as though it's a phenomena they actually experience but only recently found the language to talk about is both dystopianly weird and tragically on brand. The copying, the whitewashing, the centering themselves by playing victim. But what's ironically telling about it is that the concept of racial battle fatigue is not new. It's been around for decades, and the term black fatigue has been used by black people for quite a while. Mary Frances Winters wrote a book that came out in 2020 titled Black Fatigue, and it describes the mental, emotional, and physical exhaustion that black people experience because of systemic racism. Now, notice how black people didn't call that white fatigue, because the purpose is not to assign blame in order to justify bad behavior. It is called black fatigue because it is a harm that black people experience, and so their focus is on addressing and combating that harm. Whereas when white people talk about experiencing black fatigue, they are not talking about a harm that they experience because of black people or anybody else. They are literally telling on their own inability to live in society with black people. And that's not new either. That's a pathology that has existed for hundreds of years, but call it what it is, white rage.
Imagine in this century, some people still have that discomfort, that insecurity, that one day black people may wake up and retaliate on them of what their ancestors did to them. Why would you think whenever you hear black people, you hear violence? Imagine these white people came out to say that 1,000 years of racism toward white people and 300 years toward others. Why people can't even come out to learn their history? When did the white people pass through that racism of those thousands of years? I don't understand. Each and every time, whenever these people came out, they try always to show the whole world that they are victim, and yet they never pass through anything. They've been there enjoying black free labor. I don't understand. Guys, let's dive into today's episode. Drop your opinion in the comment section, then we'll come back with more commentaries.
Where is the country of white? It's a simple question. Where is the country of white? How long has the country of white existed? How many wars did the country of white fight? How many did it win? How many did it lose? What kind of colonization did the country of white do? What technological advances came from the country of white? The silence really isn't for me. The silence really is for you. It really is. What kind of language do they speak in white? What is the white language? What kind of famous inventors came from the country of white? Are these questions too hard for you to answer? Can you get on a map right now and show me where the country of white is? Where is the white empire? Where is it? Who led the white empire? What was the name of the royal family of white? Did they have monarchs, or did they have like a democratic society? So if that's the case, who was the first prime minister of white? Who's the first president of white? What is the daily cuisine of white? What is the most famous dish of white? You hear that silence? It's not for me. It really is for you. The quickest and easiest way to confront your stupidity is by asking you simple questions. These are simple questions. Where on the map is the country of white? What is it next to? What is its bordering country? How many wars did the country of white fight? How many did it win? How many did it lose? What kind of colonization did the country of white do? What technological advances came from the country of white? The silence really isn't for me. The silence really is for you. It really is. What kind of language do they speak in white? What is the white language? What kind of famous inventors came from the country of white? Are these questions too hard for you to answer? Can you get on a map right now and show me where the country of white is? Where is the white empire? Where is it? Who led the white empire? What was the name of the royal family of white? Did they have monarchs, or did they have like a democratic society? So if that's the case, who was the first prime minister of white? Who's the first president of white? What is the daily cuisine of white? What is the most famous dish of white? You hear that silence? It's not for me. It really is for you. The quickest and easiest way to confront your stupidity is by asking you simple questions. These are simple questions. Where on the map is the country of white? What is it next to? What is its bordering country? Was there ever any intermarriage between, like, say, England and the country of white? Was it? Was the country of white filled with scientists or barbarians? Which one was it? What did the pottery from the earliest moments of the country of white look like? I'm leaving these silent pauses for you. It ain't for me. See, I've looked at a map. I know the answers to these questions, but since you want to talk about white people experiencing racism, I need to know where these white people come from. No, you don't get a chance to call them Russian or German or Norwegian or Dutch or Canadian or English or French or Spanish. No, no, no. No, you must call them white. And if you call them white, that means they come from one centralized place, the country of white. So I need you to think about it. Where is the country of white? Is this where white slaves came from? The country of white. So who captured them? Was it the Chinese? The Mongols? The Slavs? Who caught them? Who caught them? Who enslaved these people from the country of white? Were they on the beach? Did they not have warriors? Somebody just rolled up on this land. Saw these naked white people in the sun. And just said, yeah, they'll make good breeding stock. Is that how they ended up picking cotton and sugarcane? Where are the stories about the Underground Railroad for the white people? Where'd they take them? I mean, did they take them to Canada? So there's a contingent of Canadian people who identify by their white ancestors from the country of white. Who was white's greatest trading partner? What goods did they get? What goods did they give? What was the number one export from the country of white? White women? What was it? What? I'm literally asking you these questions as serious as I possibly can. Can you answer any of them? Like, time now, today. Can you please go get a map? Go get a map. Go get a map. Country of white. Find it, please.
Everyone else can celebrate their culture, but when white people do it, everybody gets mad. Has anyone ever called you racist for celebrating St. Patrick's Day? Has anyone ever tried to cancel you on Twitter because you attended Oktoberfest in Helen, Georgia? Has anyone you know ever been triggered by someone showing up to the Tulip Festival where you celebrate Dutch culture? Has anyone ever lost their job because they were seen at a Renaissance fair? If a person of Spanish ancestry ever attends the Los Aleños fiesta in New Orleans, do you think the woke mob is knocking on their door? Our country is full of European celebrations of white European culture. But you're not talking about these. You're not talking about these celebrations. You're talking about this. You're talking about this. You're talking about this. You're talking about this. This is the white pride you want to celebrate. Look at how much fun they're having at Oktoberfest. This looks like a blast. I would love to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 beers she's holding. You don't want a German girl holding 13 beers. You want a bunch of moldy dudes who are mad that they can't have supremacy anymore.
When studying American history, one of the most important questions to answer is how did Americans justify slavery? How did they convince themselves that they had the right to own black people as property? What we find is that they had numerous ways to justify slavery, including philosophy, religion, science, and straight-up lies and self-deception. One prominent way that slave owners justified slavery was by turning to the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, who is without a doubt one of the most famous philosophers in human history. American education in the 18th and 19th centuries had a heavy focus on ancient Greece and Rome, and Aristotle's philosophy was studied by many Americans, including the Founding Fathers. Even though Aristotle was extremely intelligent and a very influential thinker, he left the world a dark legacy when it came to his views on slavery. Aristotle believed that slavery was normal and natural, and that some men were born to be masters and others were born to be slaves. He argued that humanity is divided into two, the masters and the slaves, or those who have the right to command and those who are born to obey. Therefore, to justify slavery, all American slave owners had to do was point to Aristotle. They argued that white men were the natural-born masters and black people were the natural-born slaves. However, an even greater justification for slavery than Aristotle was Christianity. Slave owners frequently justified the right to own black people as property by citing the Bible and arguing that slavery was sanctioned by God. As Samuel F.B. Morse put it, slavery per se is not a sin. It is a social construction ordained from the beginning of the world for the wisest purposes, benevolent and disciplinary, by divine wisdom. There are plenty of passages from both the Old and New Testament that condone slavery. For example, Exodus provides detailed rules about owning slaves and tells slave owners that the slave is their property. In the New Testament, Paul says, "Slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything, and do it not only when their eye is on you and to gain their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord." Slave owners would often read the Bible out loud to their slaves to show them that God approved of their enslavement. For example, when Solomon Northrop was enslaved in Louisiana, his master would preach pro-slavery sermons on Sundays. His favorite part of the Bible was Luke chapter 12, verse 47, which states, "The servant who knows the master's will and does not get ready, or does not do what the master wants, will be beaten with many blows." Solomon Northrop described how after reading this line, his master would explain, "That inward that don't take care, that don't obey his Lord, that's his master. That there inward shall be beaten with many stripes." Now many signifies a great many. 40, 100, 150, that's scripture. One of the most popular ways that slave owners used the Bible to justify slavery was through the curse of Ham. Most of you are probably familiar with the story of Noah. In Genesis, we learn that God told Noah he was going to destroy the world in a great flood, and he instructed Noah to build an ark and fill it with 2 of every animal so he could repopulate the world after the flood was over. In the story, Noah obeyed God, and after the flood, he became a drunk. I mean, you can't really blame him. He did just watch God annihilate nearly every living being on earth. In Genesis, we hear of a strange story that involves one of Noah's drinking binges. One day, Noah gets drunk and passes out naked. His son Ham sees him and tells his 2 brothers, who cover up their father with a blanket. When Noah wakes up and realizes that his son saw him naked and dishonored him, he curses Ham's son Canaan and says, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be." Some Americans interpreted this passage from the Bible to mean that all of Ham's descendants were forever doomed to be slaves, and they argued that black skin was the mark of the curse of Ham. Therefore, when Americans sought to justify slavery, all they had to do was say it wasn't their fault. It was Noah who cursed them to be slaves, and since this came from the Bible, it was seen as the word of God. This story might seem ridiculous, but many slave owners used this argument to rationalize their right to own black people. It didn't matter that this story was irrational and absurd. The point is that they were able to use Christianity as an excuse to abuse and exploit black people. Slave owners also justified slavery through the scientific theories of the time, which were heavily influenced by racism and white supremacy. For example, the French scientist Georges Cuvier argued that there were 3 distinct races of human beings: the white Caucasian, the yellow Mongolian, and the black Ethiopian. He said the Caucasian is distinguished by the beauty of the oval formed by his head and the color of his hair. To this variety, the most highly civilized nations, and those which have generally held all others in subjection, are indebted for their origin. On the other hand, he argued, the Negro has always remained in the most complete state of utter barbarism. For scientists like this, the fact that white people enslaved black people was simply a law of nature. For men like this, slavery was the natural state of the black race. Others, like the French naturalist Georges-Louis Buffon, believed that whites were helping black people by enslaving them. He believed that if black people were introduced to the cooler climate of the Americas, their skin would naturally turn white. He argued that in Europe, we behold the human form in its greatest perfection, and this is where we ought to form our ideas of the real and natural color of man. He said that if black people lived long enough in a cold climate, then their skin would become as white as the natives of Europe. Therefore, he believed that slavery was good for black people because it would eventually turn them white, which was the natural and perfect state of humanity. Never mind that human beings originated in Africa. Even abolitionists who opposed slavery still held racist ideas about black people. For example, the Philadelphia doctor Benjamin Rush believed that black skin was a disease that could be cured, and through the right treatment, black people could eventually become white. Another way that Americans justified slavery is arguing that by enslaving black people, they were doing them a favor. They argued that slavery was a moral good and benefited the slave. The man most responsible for this theory was George Fitzhugh from Virginia. In 1854, he published a book called Sociology for the South, where he argued that black people were inferior to whites and had to be slaves for their own good. Fitzhugh disagreed with the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal. Instead, he argued, men are not born physically, morally, or intellectually equal. It would be far nearer to the truth to say that some were born with saddles on their backs and others booted and spurred to ride them, and the riding does them good. For Fitzhugh, black people were born to be slaves. He argued, the Negro is but a grown child and must be governed as a child. The master occupies toward him the place of parent or guardian. Fitzhugh believed that a free black person was an oxymoron and said he would become an insufferable burden to society. Society has the right to prevent this and can only do so by subjecting him to domestic slavery. Fitzhugh argued that the Negro race is inferior to the white race, and if black people were ever to live in freedom next to whites, then gradual but certain extermination would be their fate. Therefore, Fitzhugh believed that by enslaving black people, whites were helping them. He said that slavery Christianizes, protects, supports, and civilizes him. He told his readers that the Negro slaves of the South are the happiest and in some sense the freest people in the world. Clearly, Americans had no deficit of justifications for why they had the right to own black people as slaves. However, all of these justifications were meant to do one thing: hide the fact that the real reason why white people enslaved black people is because of greed, profit, and power. Slavery was an economic system that produced extreme wealth, and white supremacy was the ideological justification that upheld it. The reason why white people came up with so many justifications for slavery is because in their heart they knew that it was wrong. They knew that they had no right to exploit and brutalize black people, so they constantly had to reassure themselves and ease their conscience. They had to constantly defend and justify a system that was clearly evil. They had to find some way to sleep at night.
What black people pass through, it is something some people don't want to understand, but I think this is the right time people need to hear each and everything concerning this period the black people pass through, because it will help a lot of race in America to united, to come together to build the country, because black people has been there for so long looking at peace and harmony. They've been there saying, raise up their voices, saying each and every time, see, you need to stop each and everything you are doing. You need to stop take us as a trash, as useless, as an human being. Imagine when we are coming here to talk about this history for education purposes, we are trying to educate some people to realize themselves that what you are doing is not good. What you're still thinking in your mind, it was a lie. Imagine you were just sitting there, keep in your mind thinking that, what if these people one day they will come out and retaliate? Retaliate for what? Some people, they came out to say, we need the reparations. They never got that reparations. Till date, we are still talking about the reparations. It's only black people who never got any coin. But these things never stop them to keep thriving, to keep move on with their lives. There is no anything you would sit there and say, black people, whenever I hear them, I hear violence. Why these people, they always like this? I think this new generation, they need to wake up and educate their families, because most of these people who still have this level of hatred, this level of racism toward the black people, these are people who are in this age, in old age. But this time around, I think their kids, their children, their grandkids, they need to wake up and start to educate them more, because you can't tell. If we look in a record, crimes happening in America here and there, try to check who always is in a high record or doing all those violence in the crimes here and there. But because some people don't want to talk about it, they always see these people as black people, as bad people. They always see them as doing all of those sort of things. When something happens in a neighborhood, in a community, they always run so fast to check who is doing something like this. Whenever they see that palm colored people, they will never talk anything. But when it is a misunderstanding, a small just misunderstanding from black people or whatever, they will make it escalated on high level because they still have that mentality saying these people, they are bad people, they are violent. I don't understand. When you try to see how this time around, whenever people they are working so hard to let people know what is really happening, to let people know that whatever you are seeing happening right now in America, it's all because of racism. This is something which has caused all these damages you are seeing till to date. These people came out to build a system which was there always against other race. What are you talking about? And this time around, we are starting to see the consequences. A lot of people see they are losing their jobs, they are being laid off. Those are the parts of racism. If people wouldn't come out to bring these people back in office because of greedy and hatred, we wouldn't see what is really happening right now happening. No wonder whenever we are coming here to say, see, we are keep telling people to stop what they've been thinking. This is a new era. People need to wake up and stop all those lies they've been fed up years and years. How come you are still sitting there saying that whenever you see black people progressing, it's a headache for you? You can't rest. You always put your eyes on them. You always there to check what these people are doing. Why these people they are busy? Why these people they are progressing? Now you see, instead you focus on your business, instead you focus on your family, your mind is always there on these people, And it's quite funny. This time around, even the black people they are arresting, they don't care about anything. They only care what it will bring something good to their community, will bring good vibes, energy. But this time around, on this administration, a lot of people are keep saying, why black people are resting? We are seeing black people relaxing. Why these people, they are not bothered to talk about what is really happening? No. Why do you want them to come out and talk? Why do you want them to come out and associate with this protesting here and there? No. They know the time to do everything because these are people who've been passing through a lot. These are people who've been passing in this hard system, which always was there to take away a lot of opportunities for them. They are used to struggle. They are used to pass all those hardship. No wonder whenever you see them not saying anything, it doesn't mean they don't have that trauma they've been passing through for years and years. But some people, they are still there saying, we are waiting for them. These people, no. If some people don't want to give anything to black people, they need also to let them rest. If there is no any program to let them know that, see, we've been trying to give you something, but we failed. You need to understand us. There is no money. There is no anything we had to give you. That's something they would come out to say, instead to come and say, these people, they are making a noise. Why these people, we always see them here and there trying to look for sympathy. They play victim of each and everything. Whenever you see black people talking, they talk about the white people, they talk about race. We are fed up with them. We are fed up with their noise. No. This is a part of their history. This is part of their life. This is something you can't remove from them. This is something they will keep talking from generation to generation. Guys, let me know what you think about this topic. Drop your opinion in the comment section. Thank you. See you in my next episode.